Here is yet one more Pac-Man clone for the SG-1000. I stated in an earlier video that Sega didn't really make very many Pac-Man clones, but you know what? Apparently I lied, because 1983 seems to be absolutely loaded with Pac-Man clones from Sega. The really quick, simple review of Pacar is that it's actually pretty good. You know, I definitely would call it above average. It's a good game. I've actually spent more time playing this SG-1000 game than probably any other, except maybe Starjacker. This game is basically what would have happened if Pac-Man was bit by that werewolf car in Futurama. Or maybe it's if Pac-Man was crossed with the 1983 movie Christine. You remember that movie about that killer car? Actually, come to think of it, 1983 was really big into cars coming alive. Pac-Car, Christine, Knight Rider. Now, before I actually played this game, I just thought it was a port of Head On. And I've read some places that it seems to be a sequel, where Head On is a 1979 arcade game by Sega Gremlin. But actually, after playing the game, I'm not sure if this is true. It seems to be completely different, and Head On did have a sequel called Head On 2, so I would actually just consider it its own game. This game features two really fun screens or levels. The first is a very basic map that resembles a Pac-Man-like maze, but with multiple levels. So in a way, this game is almost three-dimensional. The second screen features a more wide open area that reminds me a lot of Crystal Castles. Now once you beat both levels, or screens, whichever way you want to call it, they just repeat over and over and the round number increases. So you beat the first two levels once, that's round 1, and you move on to round 2, beat those two again, you move on to round 3. And the difficulty increases with each round. And this is where I think Pacar does a better job than any other Pac-Man clone that I've seen. Pacar does a style of difficulty that reminds me a lot of an old kung fu movie, like a Bruce Lee movie. You see, the first round, you are only going after one enemy. So it's a very simple fight. But then once you beat that and you've kind of proven yourself a little bit more, a second enemy comes. And then once you beat that, the third enemy comes. It's just like the old Bruce Lee movies where he starts off fighting one person and eventually works his way up to where he's taking on the entire dojo. And like many of the SG-1000 games that we've seen, this is a game that's played for a high score. There is no ending. It's the old-fashioned keep the high scores in the back of the instruction manual and try to beat your high score the next time you play it. Doing this, just like all of those other games, you get an extra life after so many points. In this game, it's 10,000 points. And this game also has some really good strategies to go through and just rack up the points. Like Pac-Man, you get major points by defeating the enemies. And also like Pac-Man, this game features a sort of power pellet that lets the hunted become the hunters. And when you're in this hunter mode, the first enemy you kill gives you 200 points, the second one 400, the one after that even more, and you just keep building up the points this way. And the difference between this and Pac-Man is the enemies immediately respawn in the garage in the middle of the map. This means that if you're lucky enough to get the power pellet to spawn by the garage, you've got some major points coming your way. Now this game has not seen a port outside of the SG-1000, so if you want to play it, your options are fairly limited. But I do have to say, if you have the means, I definitely recommend Pacar. It's a game that I would have assumed was just a complete throwaway title, but it is definitely a hidden gem.